everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with another design team project for Scrapping for Less. And for this one, we're going to focus on the Spring Woodland Critters from La La Land Crafts. And these critters are just too adorable. It was tough to only choose a couple. You can see I'm going to be playing with my Zig real brush markers, and I've already pre-cut some pieces. I used a die from my stash, and we're going to make a couple tags. So this panel here, I used Bristol paper. I almost forgot what I was going to say there. My Bristol cardstock, and I'm using my VersaFine ink to stamp with, and for two reasons. One, VersaFine ink is great if you're going to watercolor. It will not move, bleed, or anything like that. Plus, it's also good after you stamp it. I'm going to use some clear embossing powder over this. I like to have an embossed area when I'm using my watercolor brushes or my watercolor pencils. It's just a little helper for me to keep the colors contained where I want them. So I'm going to heat set this using my heat tool, of course. I chose the sentiment for the outside that says, "Hello, beautiful." And as you can see, I chose the little bunny, and yeah, it could be a squirrel. You could turn it into a skunk, whatever you're looking for. I saw it as a squirrel. I thought it was cute. So I'm gathering all my supplies. I like to have a towel. I'm going to use my aqua brush, and I'm really going to speed this section up. So I am going to show the coloring that I did, but it's going to go super, super fast. So when I work with my watercolor brushes or markers, whatever we want to call them, I like to put a little bit of color down, and then I go in with my watercolor brush or a paintbrush with water and move it around. To me, you know, this isn't Copic coloring or colored pencil coloring. So this is supposed to have a watercolor look. So I like to put my color, excuse me, to the outer edge, because then that gives it its shadow on the outside. And then I like to pull it in, whether I am using my aqua brush or I could use a secondary color, which I do sometimes as well. You don't have to use an aqua color brush. You can just use the colors straight and mix a couple colors to get your shading. I've seen that before. I've done it. I just chose to use my watercolor brush to get a more watercolor look. Now, one of the things that I didn't do, because let's face it, I forgot, was to use my anti-static tool before I stamped my images. And it's okay on the little bunny, but I do have some specks of embossing powder, of the clear embossing powder, in the face of my little squirrel here. And that's okay. You know, it kind of added to the fur look. I was okay with it, but you'll see it when it comes to the close-ups. If you get color in an area, or if you think it's too dark, just grab your towel like I did and just blot it up. That will actually lift the color as long as it's still wet. So I'm using shades of brown, of course, and they're very different. So the one shade of brown is very dark, where the other one is almost a light tan. So you can go, when it comes to this type of coloring, those two extreme ranges in the colors. I added some pink to the cheeks just to give them big, puffy, rosy cheeks. And I'm adding some green down on the bottom and just blending that out. And then I'm going straight back in with the marker and just putting some grass spikes in there, just to give it some dimension and a little bit of a 3D look there. So now we're back to normal speed. So with the die, it's a nested die that I used. So I used the larger size here, and I cut 4 out of the craft paper. what I'm going to do on 2 of them is put a score line just below the even section of these pieces. When I make tags, I like to make them double layered. So you can make just a single, just one piece of cardstock. You can write on both sides of paper. That's the beauty of it. But I tend to create this score line in the back. I put glue on the top, and then I layer them on top of each other. So you could send this as a card if you want, but it can be propped up. So I'm just adding glue using my Nuvo liquid adhesive onto the next piece, and I'm going to layer those together as well. And you'll see what I mean when it comes to that score line in the back. When I wiggle my fingers, I'm always thinking. I'm going to use some double-sided tape on the back side of my Bristol paper to adhere that down onto the side of the tag without the score line. So the score line piece is to the back. So I am going to use a lot of double-sided tape only because there was some water that went on this. They didn't warp, very little warping, but they did go through a heat gun. They did go through the water to dry. So there may be, so I just want to make sure that they do lie flat. So I'm going to put some extra tape on there, and I'm going to set that down onto my tag. So that's what they look like so far. I think they're really cute, and I love tags. I make a lot of tags, especially around the holidays. Woo! I'm going to use my hole puncher, and I'm going to put a hole, of course, on top of my tags. And I just grabbed some baker twine from my stash. This is teal and white. And I'm just going to double that and pull that through the top. And again, the way that I make my tags, they could actually be cards. Because what's really nice is, and I'll show you this in a second, you can write your sentiment on the inside of the tag. Just like with cards, we like to prop them up. So here you can see I'm about to flip this, and it's going to bend right at that crease. And I'm going to be able to stamp my sentiment on the inside. And the sentiment that I chose for the inside was sending smiles. So I think these are great tags just for a little pick-me-up, great encouragement. I'm just going to use my heat tool real quick to make sure they dry because I have a tendency to get ink all over the place. So you can see that, again, these can be used as cards because they prop up like they do with cards. So just because it's a tag doesn't mean you can't make it just a little bit more. So I hope you enjoyed these. Here are some of the close-ups of the project that we made for Scrapping for Less. I hope you enjoyed it. I do really enjoy being part of their design team. It's a lot of fun. It's a great group, and they have some wonderful products. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you do. There's so many more designs that are going to be coming out through this channel, and you really don't want to miss them. Of course, the stamp set that I used will be linked down below. Please take the time to check it out, and while you're there, make sure you check out the full shop. There's so many products available to fulfill any crafting need that you may have. I hope everyone's having a great day, but most importantly, always remember, be creative.